That's what we decided on, so that we can like pass notes to each other or point something out if we help.
This time I'm not losing that action. I'm better staying with me, even if I get destroyed.
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
I think so.
That's really nice.
I would much rather have you stay, but if it's one where like you just can't be a witness, then like
Not professional.
Yeah, but apparently
you can make that call.
told me that when I started using the action, the judge was like smiling really, really hard. So he's like, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you know if this one?
As long as whenever you're doing
I kind of want to try.
professional.
Can I see if that thing works? That mic works? Don't touch. Okay.
Not yet. We'll find out later.
I don't know. I don't know that. You're not supposed to tell them what school you're from. Even after? Where from? Oh, I don't know about after. Not until the tournament ends.
Oh, I'm not going to see them after. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't know that either, so we
I'm probably gonna forget them by then.
we read through a lot of the rules and stuff, but
We're going to introduce ourselves as team members. Yeah.
We should make a cool name for it. What is this?
Nana.
Nana. We're team Nana, I guess.
Hello, team members.
Let's go with Team N. Guys, gotta log in.
Oh, we got locked in? Alright.
Yes.
Remember, guys.
Yes, sir.
In the mirror.
There's this mic.
That's the greatest thing.
Alright, we've got 4 here. I also wanted to ask, will we be allowed to film while we...
If it's okay with everyone,
Alright, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just ask.
Wait. Oh my god.
You got it set up, Omar, so you'll just have to press the... Okay. Oh, great. And it's on Do Not Disturb and everything already, so we're good. Okay.
Nothing. It's just the whole team is curry munchers.
I'm ready. Yeah.
No, I know. I know. I'm aware.
Yeah.
I'm aware. I opened mine ours.
Yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
all curry.
Don't let me forget when I get back from opening to give you whoever speaks next to the mic. Okay, yeah. Because I only have 2, so one gets passed around the witnesses and one gets passed around us.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. You know to pass the mic after you go.
Yeah, this one we
Okay.
I think yours is blue.
To you.
You pass it to me, I pass it to you.
Oh.
Because she
I got it so we can hear them and we can hear us because I only have 2, so we're just going to pass them around the groups. Yeah.
Okay, great. I thought that they were going to just be for us.
Yeah, I think because we already have to ask like for permission for them to leave the bits and everything, we can just go ahead and call up the next one and then pass it.
Oh no! The last session.
It's not hearsay one last. If we keep getting objected to hearsay, Amar. If we keep getting objected to hearsay, just screw the whole traitor part, okay? Just screw the Brutus traitor part. When he's like, and then he called me traitor. Yeah, I'm just not gonna say that.
You mean Brutus?
Yeah. Because I'm no more. He called me. He said, you know.
Brutus.
What? Hmm?
And I give you frankincense. Thank you. And I give you myrrh. Thank you. Murder. Jeez, no. Come on.
That was pretty funny. It took me a while to understand it. I'm gonna find you.
That's the other one. It sucked not being able to talk to each other, but I liked it having more space.
As you can see here,
Yeah.
if I don't play that, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Decide right there.
Yeah.
Why is God such a good coffee maker?
Because you
Oh my goodness! Come on, that's not. You're not supposed to say.
Wait, I don't know.
I'm scared to do my opening. I lost my spot last time and
Hebrews.
messed up.
I don't know if you understood that. That was a biblical joke.
Normally I say, like, how does Moses make his coffee?
Yeah, I actually remember the
I do need to slow
punchline
down.
of the joke, but I don't remember the beginning, so I just made
There
up
was
the
a
beginning.
lot of it was me like BSing, trying to remember what I wrote because I lost my spot.
You said, I'm like, God,
Period. I'm better.
Give me a second. Give me a second.
She used the specifics. Okay? Oh, crap. Don't. Maybe no. You have to say whole thing. Oh, hey, a judge is actually a judge-looking clothing. Not a polo.
I'm already talking about like betrayal and then letting him down.
And then what are things?
Witnesses should sit right in this witness stand.
Okay. Thank you.
All rise. Honorable Justin S. Cohen presiding. Please be seated. Today's case is the Aquatic Center for Exploration versus Alex Chern Eubanks. First order of business, are there any conflicts in the courtroom? Does anyone recognize anybody? Anyone from school? Is there anyone in the courtroom who's not affiliated with one of the teams? No? Okay. All electronic devices should be turned off at this time. Now, I understand somebody would like to video the... Okay. Is there any objection to videoing the proceeding?
No, Your Honor, the only stoppages I have as timekeeper are electronic devices. They have complaints on their paper.
That's fine. Okay. So, timekeepers and our artists are ready. Excellent. Okay. So, we have the team rosters, and at this time, I will hear introductions from the plaintiff, obviously names only, no schools or anything.
Yes.
Plaintiff?
Hello, Your Honor. My name is Rishi Desari. I will be giving the closing statement, the direct examination of Terry Clote, and the cross-examination of Alex Chern Eubanks.
Great. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Shruti Reddy, and I will be cross-examining Dr. Max Northshire and direct examining Chris LeClaire while given the opening statement. Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sananta Shdeva. I will be doing direct examination of Jackie Lung and cross-examination of Wilton Einhander.
Excellent. Welcome. And introductions from the defense.
Hi, my name is Hannah Mobley. I will be giving the opening statement for our team. I will also be direct examining Wilton I. Handlet and cross-examining Jackie Lung.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Yara Ismail, and I will be directing Dr. Northshire and crossing Dr. Terry Clote.
Good afternoon, Judge, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Amar Salman. I will be direct examination for Alex Chern Eubanks, cross-examination for Chris LeClaire, and I will be giving the closing statement.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Now, our witnesses, if you could all rise for the oath. Please raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition, starting with you? Yes.
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 Thank you all so much. Please be seated. Now, counsel to the plaintiff, are there any preliminary matters we should take up at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. First, may we request permission to run the well?
So, yes, you may. For directing your own witnesses, you may approach at will. When cross-examination, I ask you to be mindful not to encroach upon the witness. So you may use the well, but I will probably warn you if you become too antagonistic with the witness on cross-examination.
Yes, sir. And may we request that exhibits 1A through 1G are pre-admitted pursuant to stipulation 9?
I understand that's a stipulation, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Those are pre-admitted. From the plaintiff, any other preliminary matters to take up at this time?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. From the defense, any preliminary matters?
Yes, first we would also like permission to move about the well.
Yes.
All right, and we would like to request that all of Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 12 are pre-admitted.
I understand that's in the stipulation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So stipulated 1 and 12 are pre-admitted. They may be used as if they're already admitted.
All right. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Not from us, no.
Okay. Well, in that case, plaintiff, you may proceed with your opening statement.
members of the jury, opposing counsel. Making dreams come true isn't an easy feat. Instead, it takes composure, cognizance, and companionship among all. And today, you will see that Nano Design was an individual who took safety into account and was prepared, and his friends will attest to that. The world of aquatic exploration was transformed when two entities, Nano Design and the Aquatic Center for Exploration, also known as ACE, made a revolutionary partnership. This partnership was initiated when Nano approached Crystal Clear about boarding the Tutu, a new submersible at ACE. With agreement from Chris, Nano prepared to embark on the journey of a lifetime and to become a witness to the shipwreck Ellie. And so on November 1st, Captain Jesse Watkins and Nano Design embarked on their journey to fulfill their dreams. But unfortunately, at 11:30 a.m. that very day, tragedy struck as only 3 hours into the dive, Nano and Captain Watkins sat submerged 6,000 feet underwater with only white noise to accompany them and not a soul to respond to their SOS call. Panic set in as the Navy was dispatched to the area on November 3rd and conducting a search that lasted all the way until November 7th, until the submersible was found. But unfortunately, it was too late. What was supposed to be a state-of-the-art, cutting-edge exploration mission ended in the deaths of the beloved billionaire tech tycoon, Nano Design, and hardworking Captain Jesse Watkins. Today, you will be introduced to the three witnesses from prosecution. First, Mr. Chris LeClaire, CEO and Managing Director of the Aquatic Center for Exploration. Second, Dr. Terry Cloth, Nano's personal physician. And third, Miss Jackie Lung, a retired Navy veteran. First, Mr. Chris LeClaire will explain how Nano elected to have ACE inside their will. After all, Nano and ACE were partners. And Nano took safety into account, so much so that he had memorized the schematics of the Tutu. From Mr. Chris LeClaire, you will understand that Nano kept his composure and understanding and competence through and through this case. From Dr. Terry Cloth, you'll understand that Nano had maintained a strong mental status and mental capabilities. And Dr. Cloth will also attest to Nano's distinct handwriting. And finally, Ms. Jackie Lung will explain the military-grade level training that Nano underwent, training akin to a Navy SEAL. Composure, cognizance, and companionship. Three motifs that reoccur consistently during this case. Composure. Throughout this case, you will learn that Nano Design was an individual who kept his calm and collected attitude through his interactions. And cognizance. Well, his individual quirks enabled him to approach this case with the utmost preparation and concentration. And finally, companionship. A partnership was solidified when Nano approached ACE in making his dreams come true. And what better entity to help him than the Aquatic Center of Exploration? So today we invite you to help maintain and determine that the scales of justice remain finely balanced and to ensure that the legacy of Nano Design and ACE lives on forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Thanks. You may proceed with your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. Today you'll hear the story of an unwell man who bit off more than he could chew and about the enablers who surrounded him. This odd man was Mr. Nano Design, a billionaire with an interest in discovery and shipwrecks. When Mr. Design heard about an old shipwreck called the Ellie, he knew that he wanted to find it by any means possible. And so he reached out to the plaintiff, the Aquatic Center for Exploration, about a project they've been working on called the Tutu that he hoped would lead him to this shipwreck. And once he found out that he would be allowed to board this vessel, he wanted to prepare in every way possible. And so you'll hear about the doctor who ignored health issues, allowing him to pass a physical that he should have failed. You'll hear about the diving instructor who overestimated his capabilities. And lastly, you'll hear about the company who cared more about the bottom line than about the safety of their customers. All of these people failed him, leading to the events of his death. Mr. Design requested a physical from his doctor, Mr. Terry Cloth, who allowed him to pass despite multiple health issues and being unable to pass the tests. He also began taking diving lessons with Ms. Jackie Lung, who claims that Nano performed incredibly well, although some issues with his lung capacity. And through all of this was his best friend and personal assistant, Mr. Alex Turn Eubanks, or ACE, who supported him through thick and thin despite concerns for his safety. All of these pieces make up the picture of a man who did not have testamentary capacity to be writing a will in his final moments. Given his lacking health and unwell mind, it is reasonable to believe that he did not know what he was doing and was not thinking clearly aboard the tutu to be writing a will and have it be valid, which then means that his holographic will was not valid. And furthermore, if it is found that this will was valid, then the ace that he was referring to is undoubtedly Mr. Alex Turn Eubanks, his best friend and personal assistant, not the aquatic center whose negligence led to the events of his death. And so, given all of these things, is why I, Hannah Mobley, and my co-counsel, Amar Salman and Yar Ismail, request that you hear all of the facts of this case and make the right decision in deciding that his will was not valid. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Plaintiff, please call your first witness.
The prosecution would like to call Chris LeClaire to the stand.
Good afternoon. Please state your name, age, and occupation.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury, and opposing counsel. My name is Chris LeClaire. I'm 47 years old, and I'm the CEO and Managing Director of the Aquatic Center for Exploration, also known as ACE.
Mr. LeClaire, please elaborate on your company.
So my company is dedicated to exploring the ocean floor and exploring the new world off the Texoma coast. We are at the forefront of deep sea exploration in the world.
Mr. LeClaire, could you elaborate on some projects being conducted at the ACE currently?
So currently we're working on technology and video feeds inside of our underwater submersibles. The submersible is one of our latest projects. In the submersible, we can take humans directly to the ocean floor for deeper explorations.
Mr. LeClaire, please clarify what the difference is between a submarine and a submersible.
So the submarine would be fully operated independently, whereas on the other hand, the submersible requires there to be a command ship that takes it to and from places for transport.
And finally, Mr. LeClaire, please explain what exactly the tutu is.
The tutu is the submersible, in this case today that we present, that was used by Nano Design. It had the potential to be one of the greatest projects at ACE thus far.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness with what has been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 2.
Granted.
Mr. LeClaire, I'm now approaching you with a copy of Exhibit 2. Please state what it is.
This would be a diagram of the tutu.
And do you believe that this is a fair and accurate representation?
Yes, it is.
Have there been any changes made?
No.
Well, in that case, Your Honor, plaintiff would like to offer Exhibit 2 into evidence. Its authenticity has been stipulated.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Then it'll be admitted.
Mr. LeClaire, please tell the courtroom about Exhibit 2.
So this would be a diagram of where things are located on the tutu and inside. You can see certain things like the focus lights, the beacon lights, and the floodlights, which help with navigating the ocean floor and navigation for the tutu.
And where would the passengers reside in the submersible?
So the passengers would just reside inside of the sphere, which needs to be sealed and pressurized during the dive at all times.
Now, Mr. Leclerc, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about nanodesign. When did Mr. Design first make contact with you?
He contacted me at 9:25 p.m. on September 25th of 2022.
And how did he contact you?
He just called me.
Could you please elaborate on what this call consisted of?
Honestly, it consisted of Nano talking continuously about the schematics of the tutu as if he had it memorized. He just kept talking and talking about it. And he also said that he wanted to take the tutu to Texoma Trench on November 1st. I quickly clarified that this would not be possible since the tutu needed to pass the 6 underwater regulations to be certified by TMEC before it could be used.
And so what was your reaction to all of this?
I was very shocked that I was going to get this call. I mean, of course I'd heard about this billionaire, but the only thing I really knew about him was his little verbal spat with the other billionaire, Karan Wyatt.
And how did you feel about the decision you finally made letting him on board?
I threw up as many roadblocks as I could, but he was very persistent in his request. It was a whirlwind, but I felt confident that he would be prepared for the dive.
And who did you choose to be the captain of this dive?
I chose Jesse Watkins, one of our trusted employees.
Mr. Leclerc, please explain to the courtroom what your next steps were after agreeing to let Mr. Design on this dive.
Of course, I had to make sure that Nano would be able to sign the releases that would release ACE from any liabilities during the dive. And I also wanted to make sure and emphasize that Nano's mental and physical capabilities were competent at the time of the dive.
Speaking of physical capabilities, what steps did Nano take to be physically prepared for this dive?
Well, first of all, he asked his personal doctor for a physical that he set up himself, and he also asked for scuba diving training, which I personally thought was unnecessary, but just shows how much extra precautions he was willing to take.
And when was the next time that you saw Mr. Design?
I saw him late October, October 23rd. This is when he was actually inside of the tutu, exploring it with Captain Jesse Watkins and understanding where things were and how they worked.
And can you please tell the courtroom what eventually happened when Nano Design arrived on site for the dive?
He was pumped, ready to go, ready to explore, just as I'd expected. But as soon as he got out, Alex started saying something to him that I couldn't quite hear, which was his valet. Afterwards, he yelled at him, which promptly started a screaming match between the two. Alex left before I was able to say anything, and Nano boarded the ship, and the ship left before I could say anything.
And would you be able to elaborate on your thoughts about Nano's mental capacity prior to the dive?
There shouldn't be any thoughts to elaborate on.
Objection, Your Honor. Not an expert.
Response?
This is just somebody who has been in very close contact, and we feel as though the witness has enough capacity to answer.
You're asking for her thoughts on the mental capacity of nanodesign, is that right?
If needed, Your Honor, I can rephrase my question.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay. Mr. Leclerc, let me rephrase my question for you. Can you tell us a little bit about Nano's actions before the dive?
He trained diligently, setting up his own physical and making sure he had scuba diving experience before boarding, which, again, unnecessary but very good because he was taking the extra precautions.
So now I want to talk to you a little bit about after the tutu was in distress. So what caused the panic on November 1st?
So this is when we lost communication to the tutu. We rapidly tried to do everything we could to find communication, but since we could not do anything about it at the moment, we immediately called the Navy.
And Mr. Leclerc, please explain what eventually happened on November 7th.
This was the day that we found the submersible with the two deceased.
And how did you feel about this?
Honestly, I started to cry. I couldn't believe. I just had some thought somewhere that they could still be alive. All we wanted to do was honor Nano's requests. We wanted him to be able to go on this exploration, live his lifelong dream of finding the Ellie, and we wanted them to return home safely. It was a truly special partnership between Ace and Nano.
And if you could, please expand a little bit more about how you were sure that Nano was really himself at this point in time.
Well, to start off with, you can't just...
Objection, Your Honor. Again, not an expert.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm not asking anything about the mental capacity of Nano Design, rather I'm asking about his character, and that is something the witness can attest to, since he was in close contact and
I'm going to sustain the objection and just rephrase the question to be a little bit more specific.
I'm going to move on. Mr. LeClaire, what are your thoughts on the holographic will that Nano wrote?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Nano is forgiving us for whatever occurred inside of the tutu on that unfortunate day.
Objection. Lacks foundation. There is no will to be entered.
Response?
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat what you...
I objected to lax foundation. The exhibit that you're talking about is not admitted.
The exhibit is part of Exhibit 1, is that right?
No.
It's part of Exhibit 2, Your Honor.
Is Exhibit 2
Which has
an
already
exhibit?
been admitted.
It has been admitted into evidence and...
The holographic will is Exhibit 2?
Oh. No, I believe not. Okay.
Which exhibit
Well,
number is the
actually,
will?
we had already pre-admitted this, Your
Oh,
Honor.
sorry. I totally forgot. I apologize.
Okay. Exhibit 1 is pre-admitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
My mistake.
Mr. LeClaire, please continue.
Sorry, could you repeat the question for me?
Absolutely. So, what were your thoughts on the holographic will that Nano wrote?
I think it's quite clear that that Nano is forgiving us for any of the actions that happened inside of the tutu on that day. I think it's quite absurd that he would leave it to his valet that he just had a screaming match with before boarding the tutu. Also, inside of the submersible on that fateful day, there was a huge logo of ACE inside the submersible right as Nano was in his dying moments.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counselor. Cross-examination?
Yes. Good afternoon, Ms. LeClaire. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm good. I'm going to be asking you a few questions today.
Of course.
To start off, how long have you known Nano for?
Just since the phone call, just had a...
Objection, Your Honor?
Oh.
That was an all-meaning question.
Yeah. Overruled.
I'll rephrase the question.
Of course.
Or I'll say it again.
Yeah.
How long have you known Nano for?
I've known Nano since the phone call that I received that one day.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago was that?
It would be September 25th of 2022.
Mm-hmm. And from there to the dive, how many times did you interact with Nano?
The several phone calls that I received were a slight indication. Also, I talked to him on that day when he popped up on my screen without me picking up any calls.
Mm-hmm. And is it true that you had never met Nano personally before the day of the dive?
That is true.
Okay. So you had never observed characteristics of his mannerisms in person before the dive, correct?
No, I had not.
Okay. Is it true that at first, when he called you, you decided to not let him on the ship?
Yes.
Why was that?
Because there was the 6 regulations that they needed to pass to let the dive continue.
Mm-hmm. And when the ship departed, did it have those 6 regulations?
No, they did not.
But you still let him on the ship, correct?
Well, yes, he was quite persistent in
Mhm.
his request.
Okay. And is it true that Nano paid $100 million in exchange for having the ship ready by November 1st?
Well, I mean, I'd asked for $50 million, which is an incredible compensation. I didn't expect the $100 million.
So yeah, it's a yes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And one quick question. Was the dive Nano went on public knowledge?
No, that was not.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what has been previously marked as Exhibit 3?
You may.
Let the record show I'm tendering to opposing counsel. Here you go. If you could you please identify this document?
This would be the message that he sent to Jesse Watkins, which would be the captain of the ship.
And who is he?
The captain of the ship?
Is it true that this was an email you sent to the captain of the ship?
That is true.
Okay. And did you write the top portion of this email?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Did you write the top portion of the page? Was that your writing?
Yes, that was my writing.
Okay. And has it been altered in any way to your knowledge?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Your Honor, we offer Exhibit 3 into evidence, and we move to publish it to the jury.
Any objection?
No objection.
No, Your Honor.
It's admitted. You may publish it.
It's a little hard to get to you, but here you go. Okay. Could you please read the portion that you wrote out loud while the jury reads silently?
Jesse, see below. Can you even believe it? Round up our core team, our elite 8, instead of meeting at location Bravo for a meeting. Today, 11 a.m. Recall anyone on PTO, you have to be the captain. Also, have Christy look into the word Nanovember to see if it has any hits on our intelligence. Nano called last night and was mumbling that word a few times. So let's be sure we get in on any social media or publicity around that theme. If there's money to be made, we need to make sure that we get a share, but otherwise keep this top secret. Even the Navy cannot find out about this. Talk soon, Crystal Clear.
Thank you. And it's true, just to be clear, that you wrote this email.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. And you said, and I quote, if there's money to be made, we need to make sure to get a share.
Of course, my company is always of my utmost interest.
So you did say that, correct?
Of course. Yes.
And why did you say that? What were you intending to mean?
I intended to obviously use this money to further help our sea exploration, since that is our company's main job.
Mm-hmm. And because you said if there's money to be made, we need to make sure to get a share.
Yes.
Where are you getting this money from? What money is to be made?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
What money are you referencing in this quote that is to be made?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
Please repeat the question.
Yeah. In this quote that you said, if there's money to be made, we need to make sure to get a share. What money are you talking about? What money is there to be made?
From the shipwreck, Ellie.
From the shipwreck?
Just to clarify, you mean the part where it says, if there's money to be made, we need to make sure we can get a share?
Exactly, yes.
Well, I would say that is from Nano, from the money that he would deposit to us.
The money that he would deposit to us, are you talking about the $100 million?
Well, the $50 million that I'd asked for, but yes.
And the $100 million that he gave you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And is it true that you sent this email, replying to an email about you receiving $100 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's from the successful wire deposit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And is it true that you previously testified that Nano's dive was not public knowledge?
Yes, his dive was not public knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And is it true that Nano was a famous individual?
Yes, he was quite well known.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I would use the word famous, but he was well known.
Okay, and in your email, which the jury can refer to,
Yes.
what did you mean by social media publicity?
Please repeat the question.
In this email that you wrote to Jesse Watkins, what did you mean by social media publicity?
Well, I wanted to see if the word Nanovember had any relevance in the case, and I wanted to see if it would affect my decisions on the whole idea in general.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and moving on. Is it true that the submersible did not complete every stage of its mandatory safety diving tests?
Not before Nano had become persistent in his efforts, yes.
Mm-hmm. And when Nano boarded it, it was missing its last certificate, which means it did not have the Texoma excursion certificate, correct?
No, it did not.
Okay. Is it true that you personally designed the failed communication systems in the Tutu?
I created the initial design, I oversaw the development.
And is it true that you created the communication system?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to, I apologize, sorry. May I approach the witness with what has previously been entered as Exhibit 12?
You may.
Thank you. May I publish it to the jury as well?
You may.
Exhibit 12. Here we go. Could you please read this note out loud?
Dear Dorothy, I love you. Stay strong. Nano strong. Sleep now. Love, Watkins.
Mm-hmm. And is it true that Jesse's wife's name is Donna?
Yes, that is true.
Are you aware of anyone named Dorothy in his life?
No, I'm not aware.
So is it possible that Jesse did not remember his wife's name due to the lack of oxygen?
Well, of course, that is, yes.
It's possible, correct?
That is possible.
Okay. And is it true that since this accident, Jesse Watkins' family brought some legal claims forward?
That is true.
Okay. And what was the outcome of these claims?
As far as I believe, there were no outcome to the claims.
Is it true that the Aquatic Center paid Jesse's family $25 million in response to this lawsuit?
Of course, we were very sad for the death, and since it was uncontrollable, We wanted to make sure the family was compensated however we could.
Of course. And moving on to your company's financial situation, how was it?
Well, currently it's a slight struggle.
Slight struggle. And your company is running on a cash deficit, correct?
Yes, it is.
How much of a cash deficit?
I don't have the specific details.
It's okay. And is it true that you've stated in your fact statement the aquatic center would go bankrupt without the money that they would win from this trial?
Yes, they would go bankrupt, but there's obviously other solutions to that. We are a huge company with 9,000 members worldwide.
Mm-hmm. And do you understand the money that your company stands to earn from this trial today?
Of course.
And to be clear, this money that you would win would save your sinking company from bankruptcy.
My sinking company and the 9,000 members worldwide that I am responsible for taking care of their livelihoods.
What about the livelihood of Nano Design?
Of course, I did everything in my power to ensure his safety during the dive. If he was persistent, if he showed up on my screen without even picking up a phone call, there is nothing that I could do in that situation other than respond.
But unfortunately, he passed away in the tutu. Isn't that correct?
It is correct.
We would like to pass the witness, Your Honor.
Plaintiff, redirect?
Yes, Your
Sorry.
Honor.
Please sit down. So you're excused. Yes, redirect?
Mr. Leclerc, can you please explain to the courtroom, or identify to the courtroom, what exactly the name on the account is on the email?
The name of the account is ACE Operation Account.
And this was where the $100 million was spent?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Please specify with what you were going to do with the $100 million that Mr. Design was going to donate to you.
Of course, use it for all further sea explorations. The tutu was just the start of a world of more sea explorations.
And please explain the care and consideration you have for your employees.
Well, everything that we do is to make sure that our employees are well managed. We always make sure that they all have a share in the company. I, as CEO, hold obviously more, but they all have a share in the company.
Yeah, and so why did you pay so much money to Jesse Watkins' family?
Because, it was a tragedy. The loss of a life is something that honestly even money cannot compensate for. We tried to do everything we could because, again, he was one of our trusted employees.
Now, if you could, please expand on what members of the company and the general public refers to your company as.
ACE. I created the logo on a napkin one day and it just stuck. It's pretty much everywhere, even inside of the submersible.
And could you please identify to the courtroom what logo is on that email?
ACE, standing for the Aquatic Center for Exploration.
Okay, and one more time, what would you do with the money even if your company did go bankrupt?
I would still place it towards all the people in the company since everybody has a share, and I would use it for whatever we could to help our sea explorations become as proficient as possible.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Recross?
Yes, Your Honor. Is it true that your company paid money to Jesse Watkins' family to avoid publicity?
No.
Is it true that you said in your fact statement to which you paid $25 million to Jesse Watkins' family to keep the claims out of court?
Of course, we don't want to create publicity for the loss of a life. We want to make sure that the family is well compensated and they are satisfied even with the loss of a family member.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. Plaintiff, please call your next witness.
Prosecution calls Terry Clove to the stand. Would you please state your name?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Terry Clark.
And Terry Clock, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm 39 years old. I live in Tacoma City, and I'm unmarried.
And what did you decide to study in school, Mr. Clock?
So I decided to pursue a biology degree.
And why did you decide to pursue this degree?
Well, ever since I was young, I love to treat stray animals or my friends' pets or like my pets for minor wounds that they got.
And can you describe your performance in medical school?
Yes, so I got a 50% scholarship at Granada Medical School, which I'm very proud of. And that's also where I pursued my biology degree.
And can you describe any residencies and internships that you had in school?
Yes, I did a residency at Municipal Hospital at Alabama, and I did my internship at Dedman Medical at Dallas, Texas.
And what jobs did you have after leaving medical school?
So first, I was a general practitioner, just doing general medicine here and there, and I also was an associate physician at Walk-in Medics.
And now I want to expand on your relationship with nanodesign. When did you first meet nanodesign?
I met nanodesign as a freshman at Texoma Central High at orientation.
Actually, sorry, I'd like to go back to your expertise in medicine. Why are you here today, doctor?
I'm here today because I am nanodesign's personal physician, and I'm the one who performed his extensive diagnosis.
Will your testimony today be rationally based on your personal knowledge of the case?
Yes.
Will your testimony today help us understand why we're here?
Yes.
Is your testimony today based on having specialized knowledge about the case?
Yes.
Your Honor, we would request to enter Dr. Terry Close as a specialist on nanodesign software.
Okay. Any objection to recognizing this witness as an expert in nanodesign code?
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay. The jury will recognize Dr. Cloth as an expert in nanodesign code.
Moving back to nanodesign. Can you describe your relationship with nanodesign when you first met him?
Yes, so throughout high school, we were part of a non-conformist group, I would say, and we would hang out together and like not participate in any extracurricular activities at school.
And how did you end up becoming nanodesign's personal physician?
Well, in 2018, at our 15-year high school reunion, we rekindled our friendship, and I was talking about how unhappy I was being an associate physician, and Nano just came up with the idea of me being his personal physician, and I took the job.
And as his personal physician, what did you do?
So I would do his blood work and check his vitals and do physicals once a week, and then per quarter, I would do an extensive physical to check his health.
Where did you perform these physicals?
So in Nano Tower on the 29th floor, there was a medical room where I would perform all of this.
And can you describe what the environment was like in that room?
Yes, so every time I would examine him, there would be doctors, lawyers, and other people coming in and out to give documentation for Nano design, and Alex was always with me.
You mentioned watching Nano sign documents. Can you describe what Nano's handwriting was like?
Yes, well, his handwriting was...
Your Honor, not an expert. She's not an expert in handwriting analysis.
Response?
She's simply just looking at Nano's handwriting. Terry has been Nano's doctor for years. I'm simply just asking what her opinion is on the handwriting, not a medical analysis, just what her opinion is.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Then I'll move on. Can you describe? You mentioned Alex frequently being in the room. Can you describe Nano and Alex's nicknames for each other?
Yes, so I've always heard Nano call Alex Alex.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Response?
Terry Cloth was in the room every single time they've had these conversations. He's simply just saying what he heard Nano say.
Yeah, I'm going to overrule the objection.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Can you describe the nicknames that Nanodesign and Alex had for each other?
Yes, so I've always heard Nano called Alex Alex. And even one time, if I remember correctly, in 2022, I've heard Nano say, Alex, will you take me to ACE? So I've heard them both in the same sentence.
Great. And now I would like to move on to talking about Nano's expedition. When was the first time you heard about Nano taking this expedition?
So one time on September 30th, 2022, Nano suddenly calls me at the night. I've never had an off call before, and he's like, I need you to do an extensive dive physical on October 2nd. And I was like, I agreed to do it. So that's the first time I heard about this physical.
And when did you perform this physical?
October 2nd, 2022.
And what did this physical consist of?
So first I checked his head canals, I checked his heart pressure, like everything like that. I checked his blood work. I did his lung capacity test, and I did a stress ECG test.
And can you describe his performance on the lung
it did come back a little less than normal from 4.76 liters of capacity to 4.07, so it was just a little off, but it was still within normal ranges, so I passed.
And can you describe, please describe any deficiencies that Nano had in this examination?
He had no deficiencies, just in the stress ECG test, he did trip once, but that's a really common mistake.
Can you describe common occurrences on the stress ECG test?
Yeah, so a stress ECG test is when one is walking on a treadmill at accelerated levels, so with a ton of cords connected to them. So when people are walking, they can get caught up in the cords and trip and fall off the treadmill.
Your Honor, may I present Dr. Clock with what has been identified as Exhibit 6?
You may.
Hmm?
Dr. Clock, can you identify what this is?
Yes, so this is in my handwriting, and this is the physical that I did for Nano.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of his physical?
Yes, it is.
Have there been any alterations made to this physical?
No, there haven't been.
Your Honor, we request Exhibit 6 be entered into evidence as authenticity of this exhibit.
Any objection?
Objection, Your Honor, out of hearsay, out of course, document.
Response?
Your Honor, this is a document that Dr. Clock wrote himself. We're just asking to look at his own document and give us information that he already analyzed from his own.
Yes. Is there a response to the hearsay objection? Why isn't it hearsay?
Because this is Dr. Clock's own observation. This isn't something he's hearing from somebody else. This is what he observed with his own eyes and his own machines.
Well, with that, I'm going to admit it as a business record, so I'm going to overrule the objection.
Dr. Clock, using this, with this document, can you describe the Nano Clock? Please describe the Nano Clock.
Yeah, so he was actually pretty healthy because he passed everything that I've done. Again, it was just the lung capacity. It was a little lower than what it should have been, but it was still within the 80 to 100% normal range. So he was pretty healthy and clear.
And now let's touch on Nano's mental health. Please describe how you test Nano's mental health.
So I did do a mini mental state examination on him. It's comprised of 11 questions that test his 7 cognitive domains, and I asked him to write or draw something out of his memorization as accurately as possible.
And please describe Nano's performance on these.
So mild dementia is from 20 to 24, a score range, but Nano always scored 25 and above, and so that means that he did not have dementia or any other sort of mental problem.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Dr. Clott.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to be asking you a few questions today. Isn't it true that you were Nano's personal physician?
Yes, I was.
And isn't it true that to remain Nano's personal physician, you have to pass examinations for high-risk activities?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you make $250,000 a year as Nano's personal physician?
Yes, he did give me that.
And that is 3 times greater than your prior salary, correct?
Yes, but that is not a reason why I took this job. That's just a benefit that comes with it.
But correct.
Yes.
Right. Isn't it true that losing your job with Nano would be a remarkable financial loss for you?
It would be, but it really doesn't affect a lot because I did already suspend my medical license after Nano had deceased.
And prior to working with Nano, you were charged with Medicare fraud 5 separate times in a span of 4 years, correct?
Well, my colleague was charged with Medicare fraud. I was inquired, but I never got charged of Medicare fraud. My colleague did at Walk-in Medics, but I was looked into.
Are you sure in your fact statement it states that you personally were charged 5 separate times in a span of 4 years?
In my 4 years, no, it doesn't say that I was charged. It said I was inquired, but my colleague was the one charged of Medicare fraud.
Permission for the jury to retrieve what has been admitted as Exhibit 6, Your Honor? And permission to approach the witness, do you have Exhibit 6? Permission to approach the witness with Exhibit 6, Your Honor? Doctor, you performed a dive physical on Nano before his submersible trip, correct?
Yes.
And isn't it true that Nano demonstrated a lower than expected lung capacity?
Yes, but he was still within normal ranges.
And you were not aware that Nano was going on an underwater submersible upon performing this physical, correct?
No, I was not aware. Yes.
To your understanding, he was only going for a dive, correct?
Yes, that is what you mentioned on his.
Doctor, could you please explain what a stress ECG test is?
Yes, so it's when a person is on a treadmill at inclining speeds and the monitor attached to them kind of monitors their heartbeat or heartbeat per minute.
And isn't it true that Nano did not complete this test after falling off of the treadmill?
Well, he was already on this for 10 minutes and he basically tripped because of fatigue. And so that's why I passed him because he was already on this test for 10 minutes.
But falling off of the treadmill would put him in the poor category. Yet you decided not to do so, correct?
Yes, I decided not to do so because it was due to fatigue that he did.
Permission to approach the witness with what has been pre-admitted as Exhibit 1D, Your Honor. Doctor, can you take a minute to point out your name on the second half of this document? To the best of your ability. Right after October.
I see Terry believes me, that is what I see.
Can you confirm that your name is written on this document?
Yes, T-R-R-Y.
Permission to publish Exhibit 1D to the jury, Your Honor?
Granted.
Doctor, to the best of your ability, could you please read what is on this page starting from October 2nd?
October 2nd, physical day with DOL. I've lost weight, gained fat. Agile exercise is what I'm reading. Terry believed me / no release cough, feel tired, sad without Ellie, so ashamed about treadmill. I fall then walk like WIL, no one will tell though in November.
And you confirm that you read Terry believed me?
Yes, I did.
Moving forward, isn't it true that Nano developed breathing issues after a mountain climb in 2020?
Yes, he did.
And isn't it true that falling or having balance problems are signs of dementia?
Yes, that is how you exhibit dementia, yes.
And isn't it true that Nano demonstrated these signs prior to the dive?
Only a few times, like only one time when I was his personal physician.
And isn't it true that CT scans are a common brain scan used to diagnose dementia?
Yes.
And a CT scan was supposed to, but was not performed on Nano prior to the dive, correct?
This is because he did fall off the stress ECG test because of his fatigue. We said not to.
So a CT scan was not performed on Nano, correct? Despite your knowledge of all previously mentioned, you still gave Nano the medical clearance, correct?
Yes, because he did pass most of the tests that we did do. Everything we got to, he did pass.
Thank you. I pass this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Klopp, can you explain to me please explain some common mishaps with the stress ECG test?
Yes, so over the years of me doing the stress ECG test, a ton of patients have fallen off because they've been tangled in the cords.
And what happened with Nano during the stress ECG test?
The same thing has happened. He was 10 minutes on the stress ECG test and he got tangled up in his cell. He tripped over the things.
And typically, how does Nano perform on the stress ECG test?
Well, 10 minutes in, Nano was doing fine.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Recross?
No questions, Your Honor.
Dr. Klopp, you may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Plaintiff, please call your next witness.
Please call Jackie Long to stand. Could you please identify yourself?
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Jackie Lund.
And how
And what is your occupation?
I'm a Navy veteran and a small business owner.
And what kind of education do you have?
So I really love the water. So after graduating high school, I decided to move on to the Naval Academy, and I graduated from there.
And so, going into the Navy, what did you specialize in while you were in the Navy, Mr. Long?
I mainly worked on submarines across the world, and I specialized in sonar technology, which are the eyes and ears of a submarine.
And what were you trained in during your time in the Navy?
After a few years of being in the Navy, I joined the Naval Special Forces, where I was given basic SEAL training, and I was trained in underwater demolition.
Could you tell me about any projects you were involved in during your time in the Navy?
So I guess I can talk about this now since it's been a few years, but my main project was called Lazarus, which is where I was told to go to the back of an enemy warship and place an explosive to disable the steering capabilities of the ship. From this mission, I earned the Medal of Valor.
And when did you retire from the military?
I retired 4 years ago.
So, following your retirement, what did you do?
After I retired, I still wanted to continue spending time in the water, so I decided to become the lead dive instructor of Dive and Survive Scuba Diving Company.
And Mr. Long, why are you here to testify today?
I'm here to testify because I am NANO's scuba diving training instructor.
And will your testimony be rationally based on what you've witnessed or have personal knowledge on?
Yes.
Will your testimony help us understand why we are here today?
Yes.
And is the testimony you are about to give based on any type of specialized knowledge?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I please enter Ms. Lung as a specialist in submersible and intermediate hypoxic training?
Any objection to identifying this witness as an expert?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. This witness will be identified as an expert. I'm sorry, can you repeat the
In
expertise?
submersible and intermediate hypoxic training.
Thank you.
Mr. Long, could you tell me about the customers who come to dive and swim?
Yeah, most of my customers are just rich people that have nothing else to do with their money. So they're usually CEOs or movie stars or athletes.
And can you tell me about your customer satisfaction rate?
Sure, I've never lost a customer, nor have I had a customer that was injured while training, so I say my customers are pretty satisfied.
Okay, so moving on to your particular interactions with Nano, when did you first come into contact with Nano?
So my first contact with Nano occurred on September 29th, 2022, when Nano called me and requested for private one-on-one scuba diving training lessons.
And following this, when did you first meet Nano in person?
We first met on October 1st, 2022. This is also the same day that we started our training.
Could you tell me about these initial training sessions with Nano?
Sure, so rich people always like to oversell their abilities. So I began with a basic test to see where Nano's at and what experience he already has.
And was there anything that caught your eye during these initial training sessions?
Yeah, Nano passed this basic test with flying colors. It seemed that he already had experience, and I found it odd that someone with so much experience would want standard training.
And did you offer any additional training after you realized this?
I didn't offer it until Nano requested more special training, as I told him that he already knew everything that was in this basic course.
Okay, could you tell me about these special training sessions you had with Nano?
Sure. So we started off where I took Nano all the way down 120 feet, and I tried to disorient him by spinning him around and whacking him just to see how he would react under stressful situations, and he was perfectly able to come all the way back up, and he remained perfectly calm. It was really interesting to watch because he was literally thinking his way through every single problem. I've never seen something like this before. After that, we continued with simulating dark diving.
Mr. Long, could you please clarify what dark diving is?
Sure. So dark diving is essentially where the swimmer is placed in a blacked out eye mask to simulate swimming around in the dark. So Nano was placed in a blacked out eye mask, and he was taken down 100 feet just to see it, and he was like disoriented to see how he would react and if he was able to come back all the way up to the surface. Again, he always recovered and was perfectly calm.
And what other trainings did you do with Nano?
We also did intermittent hypoxic training.
What is intermediate hypoxic training?
Intermittent hypoxic training is essentially where the body is exposed to low oxygen environments in order to promote health benefits and to train your body to work the same way and function to the same ability as it does with the typical amount of oxygen.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you about Nano's reactions and the physical and mental effects. So could you tell me how he handles pressure, or how he seemed before the dive compared to after the dive?
Sure, so my time with Nano was limited to only our training and calls, but he he remained the same throughout all of our sessions. He was pretty calm, and he was always a focused individual.
And, Mr. Long, if the brain is deprived of oxygen, could you tell us what the effects on the mind would be?
Yeah, so the effects on the mind when there's a lack of oxygen would be impairment, a lack of rational thought, and some confusion.
And what are the physical effects, Mr. Long?
The physical effects would be a decrease in muscle coordination.
Would this muscle coordination be able to affect small tasks such as the ability to write?
No, this decrease in muscle coordination is very small, so it won't fully affect the ability to write, since the ability to write only requires a small amount of muscle coordination.
And lastly, I'm going to be asking about the beneficiary of the will, Ace. Could you please describe your knowledge on the identity of Ace?
I've never ever heard Nano call Alex Ace, but I've also never heard him call the Aquatic Center Ace. I do think it's important to note that the submersible tutu below the porthole where Nano was, there is the ACE logo, like the Aquatic Center for Exploration, and it's just letters, ACE.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with Exhibit 2, which was previously entered?
You may.
I now hand you what has been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit number 2. Would you please, sorry. And this is what you were talking about, correct?
Yes.
And what do you think of this logo in conjunction with Nano's will?
I believe this is the logo Nano saw while he was in the submersible.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Hi, my name's Hannah. I'm going to be asking some questions today. So first off, I want to start talking about your training. So it is true that you trained Nano, yes?
Yes.
And that is it also true that you worked with him closely in the time leading up to his death?
Yes, I trained with him.
And isn't it also true that Nano forgot your name multiple times while training with you?
Just a few times. But it could have been a slip, because Jackie and Zachy do sound the same. I may have misheard.
So that's a yes to my question. He did forget your name?
Sure.
So is it then reasonable to say that Nano had some trouble remembering things sometimes?
No.
But you did admit that he did forget your name on multiple occasions?
He never had trouble remembering anything else. Zachy and
Objection,
Jackie could have gone on
non-objection.
this, but
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
I think we've answered the question. Let's move on, Counselor.
Alright. So I'm going to move on a little bit. Did Nano ever bring anyone with him to training?
he brought Alex, but I never let Alex come inside the training facility.
And did the two of them seem close from the little time you spent with them?
Alex was around Jackie, but I never observed their interactions together.
He was around Jackie?
Oh, sorry. Alex was with Nano, but I never observed their interactions together, as Alex was not allowed to come inside the training facility.
Alright. And during your time with Nano, did you ever hear him refer to the Aquatic Center as 8?
No.
Alright.
But he's aware of the logo.
So now I want to change gears a little bit back to your time in the Navy. Is it true that you experienced hypoxic death after one of your missions?
I was legally prepared to die.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant?
Well, this witness has been sworn in as an expert on hypoxia and things related to humans in low oxygen environments. I want to paint a picture of her experience with hypoxia so that we can better get an understanding of that.
Understood. Overruled. Proceed.
So I'm going to repeat my question. Is it true that you experienced hypoxic death during your time in the Navy?
Yes, after my mission, I was legally prepared to die for 2 minutes.
And isn't it also true that you said that you cannot remember anything from the explosion leading up to the moment that you died?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that you claim to maintain perfect mental clarity during those moments?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Isn't it also true that you claimed in your fact statement to have maintained perfect mental clarity in those moments leading up to your death?
Well, to where I was conscious, yes, I do have maintained perfect mental clarity.
But you also claim not to remember those moments?
Yes.
Just wanted to clear that up. So, if you yourself, with all of your years and your time in the Navy, and all of your experience with these breathing techniques could not remember those moments leading up to your death, how can you expect someone like Nano, who had significantly less experience than you did, to maintain mental clarity while experiencing hypoxia?
Well, in my case, the oxygen completely ran out, but in Nano's
Objection, speculation.
The witness has been sworn in as an expert in hypoxia.
Overruled.
In my case, the oxygen tank completely ran out, which is what led to my hypoxia-related death. But in Nano's case, there was still oxygen left in the tube. There's just less oxygen than what is ideal.
But you do agree that Nano did pass away from lack of oxygen?
Yes, he was underwater for longer than the amount of oxygen that was ever available in the tube.
Here. Your Honor, permission to approach the witness with what has been marked as Exhibit 8.
Right.
Do you recognize this document? Yes. Can you identify the document?
It's group chat history. Here's my number.
And did you send some of those messages?
Yes, I did.
Alright. And does anything on this document appear to have been altered in any way?
I don't believe so.
This document is fair and true to your knowledge?
Yes.
Your Honor, we move to sentence the evidence.
Any objection to Exhibit 8?
Your Honor. Alright. So, Jackie, isn't it true that you claim that Nano had no personality or communication skills in these text messages?
Yes, but I meant this more as a joke than an
I only needed a yes or no.
Yes.
Alright. Can you read out the text that you sent on October 4th at 5:31 p.m.?
So about Nano, he's a beast in the water. I think he could pass the actual Navy SEAL training, not joking. He'd probably get punched in the face 10 minutes in though. Got no personality or communication skills. Very off-putting. It wasn't just a minor personality disorder, if you ask me. Wouldn't want him trying to play it right.
Alright. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, redirect.
So, Mr. Long, could you please, so, as you said, you forgot things after your death, correct? Or during the time period before your death, you forgot things?
Yes.
If you forgot that, is it possible that you also could have misheard Zappy and Jackie?
Yes. It's a very common mistake.
And, in Exhibit 8, is it true that you said Nano was a very strong diver, he was a beast in the water,
Yeah, he passed his flying colors.
and you also said he could pass the Navy SEAL test, correct?
Yeah. He passed the most strenuous assessment that most people can't pass.
Okay, and, okay, thank you, no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Recross?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Boulon, you may step down. The plaintiff have any additional witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor.
The plaintiff rests. Spence, you may call your first witness.
Your Honor, we call Alex Chern Eubanks to the stand.
Recorder.
Yes.
No objections to recording up here?
No, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Eubanks. How are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely perfect, sir.
And if you would, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. The name's Alex Chern Eubanks, also known as Ace. 37 years old, and I got a beautiful daughter. But just to be clear, I'm single and ready to mingle.
Okay. And what, if any, education do you have?
I went to MIT. I originally went there for computer engineering, but maths just didn't allow me, so I ended up going for executive hospitality management, which is kind of convenient because I got to work with Nano.
And speaking of Nano, how did you meet him?
Well, at MIT, he was my dorm roommate, or as I like to call him, my dormie.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And how was your time with him as your roommate?
Oh, it was great. You know, he was real quiet, never bragged. He was someone that the more you got closer to, the more you just pat each other's backs.
And what do you mean by having each other's backs?
Well, there's a lot of instances. This one time I gave him a specially monogrammed handkerchief, which had the words ACE imprinted on it. And I was told that I was an ace. And that's not even to mention the time that, we did other things for each other.
Mm-hmm. And when did becoming his personal assistant become your job?
At graduation, me with my bachelor's degree, him with his 3 advanced degrees, I just felt like someone needed to help Nano. So there I asked him if I could work for him, and he's agreed.
And Mr. Eubanks, when you were employed for Nano, what were your responsibilities?
I did a whole bunch of things. I drove him / flew him to appointments. I got my flying license. I handled his wardrobe, did household staff shopping, grocery shopping, all pretty much anything that wasn't computers or business. But he could still do things like bathe himself and stuff like that.
Of course. And as someone who you said has known Nano for 13 years, what are your thoughts on Nano's state of mind before the dive compared to what you've seen previously?
From what I've seen previously with all my years with him, I can clearly tell that Nano just was not himself.
Mm-hmm. And what led you to that opinion?
Well, there's a whole multitude of things, but I can confidently say that on September 15th is where it all started.
Could you elaborate on what started?
Right. So, on September 15th, me and Nano went to go meet with an insurance broker who sold life insurance. We went to go meet him, and that's also where we found out of the sinking of the alley. We got back to the parking garage, and let's just say that's where things got weird.
And when you say weird, what does that mean?
Well, Nano wanted me to take him home, and I tried clarifying that we were at our house. He knew where we were. Eventually, he yelled and snapped at me, so I could drive around for about an hour, and for that day, I guess he was okay.
Interesting. And could you tell us about any other times where his actions struck you as out of the ordinary?
So literally the day after that, September 16th, one thing I clearly remember was Nano staying in his floor for 2 weeks, not letting anyone see him.
Okay. And when did you see him next?
It was late September 30th. That's where Nano wanted me to go to the center.
The center. What happened after that?
Well, I was driving to the harbor, and that's where I found out that we were supposed to go to the Dive and Survive company. So I asked for clarification, but then he just yelled at me again. I'm not entirely sure.
Mm-hmm. So, just to be clear, he said to take him to the center, but he took him to Dive and Survive, which is not the aquatic center, correct?
That's absolutely correct. I'm not sure why I said that.
And then he shouted at you, correct?
That's correct. He just snapped.
Mm-hmm. If any, what other instances after that was where Nano had did something he hadn't done before?
So I remember on October 2nd, as someone that constantly, schedules and handles all of Nano's appointments, he had set up an appointment with Dr. Cloth, which was really, really weird.
Why was that weird?
Well, I'm someone that schedules all of his stuff for him. I mean, I come to all his physicals because that's what it was, a physical, and I decided to come on this one as well.
Mm-hmm. And of course, as we previously heard from Dr. Terry Cloth, we've heard about the events of the physical. Mm-hmm. But from your perspective, what happened?
Well, everything was fine. He was doing good up until cardio, you could say.
And what went wrong during cardio?
He got tangled up in some cords, and he had a great big fall.
Mm-hmm. And what was the outcome of the physical?
Well, as one might expect, she should have been failed, but Cloth just passed him anyways.
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation. Alex Eubanks cannot speak to whether or not Nano should have failed a medical physical because he is not a doctor himself. He cannot make a medical decision on whether Nano should have failed.
Response, Your Honor? Earlier, when Dr. Cloth came up, she herself admitted that technically he should have failed the physical. All Mr. Eubanks is doing is restating what the expert said.
I'm going to sustain the objection. This expert's not a witness, or this person's not an expert, medical expert. I'm going to instruct the jury to please disregard this witness's previous statement.
You said earlier that you had been present for all of Nano's previous physicals. Could you tell us why he had some done in the past?
So there was one day he decided to go on a mountain climb, and let's just say that didn't go well.
What didn't go well?
He came back and he was on an oxygen tank for about a week or so. He had serious breathing issues.
Mm-hmm. And earlier you said there was multiple things that concerned you about Nano. Could you please elaborate on some of them?
So for all my years of being with Nano recently had just started switching between a depressed / manic state. It just wasn't Nano.
So he wasn't being himself, correct?
That's correct. You know, the mood swings that he had, I guess, discovered were just so unordinary.
Mm-hmm. And what, if anything, did you observe Cloth doing about this?
See, that's just the thing. Cloth just completely overlooked his mental issues.
Mm-hmm. And to round this all off, could you please tell me what happened on the day of the dive?
I absolutely can't. So on October 30th, right, I had no choice but to drop him off, and that's where I can say that I guess I let my emotions get the best of me.
What do you mean by that?
So someone who's just known Nano such a long time as my best friend, I just feel like he was making a stupid mistake. So I told him that this was a dumb mistake, and he called me Brutus, which means traitor in the Roman times.
What happened after that?
I mean, that was it. He hopped in, and our very last conversation ended up being that.
I'm sorry for your loss. Really quickly, Your Honor, may I approach this witness with what has already been pre-entered as 1F? And may I publish it to the jury? There you go. Could you please identify what this is?
Yes, so this is seems to be Nano's handwriting of things that he wrote in his submersible.
Mm-hmm. And how do you know this is something Nano wrote?
Well, for one, he had terrible handwriting. I think that's the main thing.
Mm-hmm. And could you please tell the jury why you think this document is important?
So, just for reading this, it's just I can just tell that Nano wasn't himself. I mean, what even is this, right?
Mm-hmm. And could you please read the exhibit out loud from line 23, while the jury, of course, reads along silently.
All right, bear with me. It's a little bit hard to read. Nano future dark, sinking Jesse scared. Lights out, just clock, zebra, clock, 16:04 clock, Jesse sleepy. Wants page, Jesse asleep, breathe. Wait, no. Lonely Nano design. Lonely Nano said dying. Vein bubbles may wail, memories traders by.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you noticed on this document that you think the jury should pay particular attention to?
So, guys, I've known Nano for so long, and his name has never once been Nano Sadine. It's Nano Design.
Yeah. So, are you saying that he spelled his own name wrong?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I don't know why he wrote it down like this. That's not right.
And is it possible, due to the lack of oxygen, he wasn't thinking clearly?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. Alex Eubanks was not in the boat, was not in the submersible when Nano was writing this or writing the will. He cannot speak to what the cause of the, whether like messy handwriting or what the peculiar language on this exhibit are. He has no medical expertise on hypoxia. Furthermore, he has no expertise within the submersible itself. Response?
Your Honor, that was my final question. I have no response. I'd like to pass the witness.
The objection.
We'd like to pass the witness.
Okay. Cross-examination.
Hello, Mr. Eubanks.
Hi there.
I'd like to start with the identity of Ace. Has Nano Design ever called you Ace?
Yes, that's correct.
He called you just Ace, not an Ace, not Ace Ballet, just Ace.
No, he actually said it exactly the previous 2 ways you just said it.
But he never said. He never called you Ace.
If it's exactly
Ace.
Yes, that would be correct. Yes.
He never exclusively called you Ace.
Okay.
And you mentioned Nano Design going on having reading issues prior. Is it true that Nano Design
Well, I guess, yeah, I guess that makes sense. He was on a mountain, so probably, yeah. I don't know.
And we can say that being underwater is different than being on a mountain, correct?
Objection, speculation. This witness does not have any idea about underwater or above ground.
It's really basic knowledge. You're either on a mountain or underwater. They're not the same thing. Anyone can testify to that.
I'm gonna overrule the objection.
And you mentioned the handkerchief a while back. Has Nano ever had a mental breakdown?
Yes, of course. Yes, definitely.
And it happened with this handkerchief, correct?
Right, that's correct. He couldn't seem to. Yeah, that's right.
And Nano has had physical issues before the accident, correct?
Before the
expedition, or before he started preparing for this expedition.
Yeah, of course he's had issues. Yes.
And you claim in your witness statement that Nano exhibited general signs of dementia because he was forgetting where he was or having periods of isolation, mental breakdowns, correct?
Objection, non-expert.
This is in Alex's own witness statement. At the very last page, he said Nano's signs exhibiting general signs of dementia.
So I'm going to sustain the objection and just ask you to rephrase your questions to be more specific with the behavior and less diagnoses.
So you mentioned that Nano's peculiar behavior now makes the will invalid. Does this mean that Nano has exhibited peculiar behavior for 14 years since college?
13 years, 2010. So, sorry, what was the question?
Does this mean that Nano has been exhibiting the same peculiar behavior that you identified as peculiar now since college?
No, he was always on the weird side.
But you mentioned that he had a mental breakdown in college about a napkin.
I think that's a fairly normal thing.
Yes or no question.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
And did you ever directly observe the test being done with Jackie Lund?
No, he didn't let me go in there.
And Mr. Eubanks, you testified that Ace could only be you, correct?
That's exactly what I testified. Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness with what has been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 3.
Yeah, Exhibit 3 has been admitted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Proceed.
And also approach the witness with what has been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 2.
Proceed.
Mr. Eubanks, can you describe to me what the Ace logo is like?
Are you talking about on
Can
it?
you describe to me what the Aquatic Center logo is like?
On here, you're talking about?
Sorry, I'll flip it around.
Okay.
Yes, on here
Okay.
and right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like an A and then an arrow, and then I guess an E. I mean, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
There are 3 letters. Can you tell me the 3 letters that are on that logo?
If it's not an arrow, I guess it's ACE. Yeah.
Ace. Got it. And
Okay.
can you go down to the bottom part of that exhibit? Exhibit 2, the bank statement. Exhibit 3, sorry. Bottom part of Exhibit 3, the bank statement. Can you read who the money was transferred to?
Okay. The wire transfer part, is that what you're going to read?
Yes.
Wire transfer and deposit confirmation, $100 million, sender, Nanotechnologies, LLC.
Right
I'm so sorry.
over here.
Okay. Texoma Bank confirms that an incoming wire transfer has been successfully deposited into your account. Account name, ACE Oper Act, ACE Operation Account. Is that what it is? Account number XXX44918.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Redirect.
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Eubanks, could you just take a look at Exhibit 3, which was been handed to you?
Is that?
Oh, did you? Oh, if I could. Perfect, thank you. If you could take a look at the top part of this email, which was, as we've previously said, sent by Chris Leclerc. Could you see who it was sent to? Could you read the email address?
It was sent to watkinsj@accenter.com.
And is that Nano to sign?
No, I have no idea who that is.
So this email never reached Nano to sign, correct?
From and to, yeah, no, not at all.
So, in your opinion, is it relevant that the logo looks like this if Nano never even got this email?
I actually don't think it's relevant if that's correct.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's see.
So what you have before you is a legal document showing a transaction, correct?
Yes.
And you are aware that ACE is a common way to refer to the applied test of declaration in legal documents, correct?
I guess I am aware now, yes.
And are you aware that a will is a legal document?
A will is a legal, yes.
Okay, nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. You may step down.
Thank you.
Defendant, please call your next witness.
Permission to call Dr. Northshire to the stand, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Northshire.
Afternoon.
May you please introduce yourself to the court?
Greetings. My name is Dr. Max Northshire. I'm an expert in cognitive neuroscience when it comes to focusing on biological processes and aspects underlying human cognition. I as well am also a forensic handwriting analysis expert.
And can you please inform us of your educational background?
Certainly. So first of all, I graduated from Yale University in triple majors in psychology, neuroscience, and forensics. 4 years later, I pursued a degree from Harvard University in cognitive neuroscience.
And how is it that you became involved in this case?
I was initially hired by Alex Chen Eubanks to determine if the contents of the red notebook were indeed written by Nano.
And according to your analysis, whose handwriting was found in the red notebook?
I can confirm that in the notebook it was indeed written by Nano.
Permission to approach the witness with what have been pre-admitted as Exhibit 1F and 1G, Your Honor. Doctor, could you please identify Exhibit 1G?
Yes, this is the page. This is the presumed will from the notebook.
And could you please identify Exhibit 1F?
Yes, Exhibit 1F is the page that was directly before the presumed will.
Permission to publish Exhibit 1G to the jury, Your Honor.
You may.
And may the jury also reference Exhibit 1F. Thank you. And Doctor, what can you tell us about the writing style as it progresses?
As you progressively flip through the notebook, the writing style just gets gradually worse and worse.
And what is notable of Exhibit 1G, the presumed will?
This is where the writing is basically the worst, yes.
Counsel, briefly, are you going to tender this witness as an expert?
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, will you go ahead and do so?
Permission to tender this witness as an expert, Your Honor.
Any objection? Sorry.
Just inquiring about what? An expert on what?
She is an expert in cognitive neuroscience, forensic handwriting analysis.
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. This person will be recognized.
Thank you. May I repeat that? What does this handwriting entail of his mental state at the time?
That his mental state had most likely had been compromised.
And Doctor, could you please read aloud the fourth line from bottom on Exhibit 1F?
Lonely Nano Sedine. It seems as if he's written his last name incorrectly.
And what can you tell us about his mental state from this?
Well, if you're spelling your last name incorrectly, then it's only logical to conclude that something had probably went wrong. For example, his mental abilities have been compromised.
And so, overall, the writing style and the contents that you have looked at and have previously looked at before today, what can you conclude about his overall mental state upon writing this presumed will?
That he was not in the fit or right mental capacity when he had written the presumed will.
And how would understanding Jesse Watkins's, allow me to begin. Doctor, could you inform us of who else was on the submersible with Nano?
Yes, I believe it was Captain Jesse Watkins.
And how would understanding Captain Jesse Watkins's mental state assist us in understanding that of Nano's?
Well, if they were both in the same environment at the same time, which they were, then it's only logical to conclude that both of their mental abilities would have been compromised.
Permission to approach the witness with what has been pre-admitted as Exhibit 12, Your Honor.
May?
Yeah. And may the jury also reference Exhibit 12, please?
Yeah. Is it?
Yes, sir. What does Watkins' handwriting entail of his mental state at the time?
Well, A, the handwriting for a grown man is absolutely atrocious, and B, I'm not familiar with a Dorothy. I don't know who that is.
And do you, to your knowledge, did Jesse Watkins ever struggle to write with her hand or with his hands?
No, he did not.
Your Honor, improper.
I'm sorry, what's improper?
I'm sorry. Actually, objection.
Allow me to repeat that. So, what does, okay, to your knowledge, how was Jesse Watkins' handwriting before the dive?
His handwriting.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. The witness does not know anything about Jesse Watkins' handwriting prior to the examination. And as they have noted before, they've only compared signatures with Nana's handwriting.
Response?
Your Honor, my witness is an expert in forensic handwriting analysis, and she has evidence of Jesse Watkins' handwriting prior to the dive, and that she understands that this handwriting here shows that her mental state has been compromised. I'm trying to establish.
I'm going to sustain the objection and just ask you to lay a foundation, starting with the pre-dive writing sample and then post-dive, and then ask for the conclusion.
So, what does Watkins' handwriting entail of his mental state at the time?
Well, for a grown man, his handwriting is completely atrocious, so his mental state had most likely been compromised as well.
And how would his mental state compare to that of Nano's, given that they were in the same submersible together?
It would have basically meant that they would have been in equal status. I mean, his mental state would have been compromised, and so had Nano's.
Doctor, how would being in a dark, confined space for an extended period of time, such as in the tutu, affect Nano's mental capabilities?
Well, in order to put this in perspective, think of prison or solitary confinement, where it's dark, cold, and cramped. Those were the same conditions that were in the tutu at the time. And back to the prison and solitary confinement, that's where one could lose their senses. So it's only logical to conclude it's likewise for the tutu.
Moving forward, it was testified that roughly 2 months prior to the dive, Nano retreated to his penthouse for a full 2 weeks. What do you conclude of this behavior?
I just believe there was a psychotic break.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. This witness cannot attest to what happened during that 2-week hermit period. This witness's only expertise is in handwriting and neurocognizance, but this witness was not present for that time, has no evidence on that time as well.
May I respond, Your Honor? This witness actually has a degree in psychology, and she was assigned from she was introduced from Alex Eubanks to also analyze Nano's previous behaviors. It was 2 things: to analyze the writings of the notebook and to analyze his previous behaviors. So this is in the domain of his expertise. Allow me to restate the question. It was also testified that during the same period, Nano failed to recognize his own home, the tower in which he resides. What do you conclude of this behavior?
Well, he was forgetting things such as, his own home, then it's very most likely to say that it could have been a hallmark sign of dementia.
And from your expertise, how difficult would it be for a doctor to recognize and diagnose these symptoms?
Oh, it would be quite easy unless, of course, a doctor did not recognize it.
Dr. Northshire, what can you tell us about the mental side effects of the body as it loses oxygen?
The body loses oxygen, that technically speaking means that their mind, their mental abilities would also get compromised.
And for how long can the portions of the brain involved in consciousness withstand the lack of oxygen?
I believe it's a near 40 seconds.
And from your understanding, how would Nano's supposed breathing techniques aid him throughout the dive?
Are you talking about lungs techniques
Yes.
from Jackie Lung? Well, I believe that those breathing techniques actually aided in a faster death rate for Nano, as I believe they unearthed a underlying asthma issue of his.
Permission to approach the witness, which has been marked as Exhibit 9, Your Honor. Doctor, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what this document is?
Yes, this document is the fetus Nano Design's autopsy report.
And does everything on this document appear fair and true to your knowledge?
Yes, everything seems to be in check.
Permission to tender Exhibit 9 as evidence, Your Honor, and publish it to the jury.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted.
According to the autopsy, paper from the notebook was found inside Nano's stomach. What do you conclude of this behavior?
Well, first of all, paper is not my first day of choice when I'm thinking of something to consume. So, simply, it just represents that Nano's mental abilities have been not compromised before he even wrote the will.
Thank you. I pass this witness.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Dr. Roseberry.
Afternoon.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. You mentioned that you went to Yale and majored in psychology, neuroscience, and what was the last?
It was forensics.
Okay. Can you clarify whether you've actually been to an official medical school?
I've never been to medical school, no.
Okay, so you are admitting that you are not a doctor of medicine who has a specialty in psychology, correct?
I have a degree in psychology.
Right, but the question was whether you are a doctor of medicine who specializes in psychology.
Object, Your Honor, relevance. I don't see how being a doctor in the medical field would assist the witness or assist our case in general.
Response?
I am just setting a foundation for the witness's credibility, which in the case has seen there are multiple holes in the witness's credibility, so I'm getting to that in a second.
Overruled.
Well, technically, no.
No, perfect. All right, and it has been said that you've been hired by Alex Chen Eubanks' lawyers, correct?
Yes.
And you are being compensated for this case, correct?
Yes.
You're compensated for all of your testimonies, right?
Yes, I am.
And for this case, you are currently being paid $24,000, right?
Yes, in total.
For this 10-minute testimony?
Yes.
Would you say that's a large sum of money?
Object, Your Honor, speculation.
Response?
I'm simply asking the question whether the witness would think, the witness actually has a retainer of a $20,000 limit on which they have said in their witness statement, and that is part of their company that they founded. So again, this is with witness credibility.
Overruled.
Yes, it could be a large sum of money.
Okay. Right. Now, I'd like to talk to you about Nano Design. Have you ever met Nano in person?
No, I have not.
Have you ever contacted Nano?
No.
Were you there during the time of his 2-week permit period?
No.
Were you aware that he was on muscle relaxants and other drugs prescribed by his personal physician, Dr. Terry Claus, during this time?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, good to know. And you claim that Nano had dementia, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Can you please clarify to the court whether you had actually conducted a dementia test?
No, I simply just observed.
Observed, right. So everything you've concluded has been based on hearsay up to this point, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
So you expect us to believe your expert testimony on somebody you've never met and everything has been based on hearsay, right?
Basically, yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Dr. Claus in both direct examination and your witness statement. So, were you aware that Dr. Claus only knew of Nano's scuba diving adventure, not a submersible dive?
I have no prior knowledge on Nano, besides after examining the red notebook and some of his behavior.
I'm sorry, it appears that you must have misinterpreted my question. Let me repeat. Were you aware that Dr. Claus only knew of Nano's scuba diving adventure, not a submersible dive?
Oh, yes, I do.
So you're aware?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, you think that he would have ran additional tests had he known it was a submersible dive?
I hope so, yes.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Response?
Yeah, so you've actually entered this witness as an expert, which means he has testamentary capacity to answer to this question. He has multiple times criticized Dr. Claus, and in this case, Dr. Claus had a limited knowledge on Nano's adventures, so just a note.
Overruled.
Okay. To continue, were you aware that Dr. Claus actually ran a dementia test on Nano?
Yes, I was.
Yes. Okay. And his medical facilities, but did Nano eventually pass this test?
Yes, he did.
So Nano passed the dementia test. Okay. You also mentioned that repeated falling and balance problems are key symptom of mental compromise, correct?
Yes, I did.
But as far as you know, Nano only fell one time, right?
Yes.
So one fall is definitive to support your previous claim.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
One fall is definitive to support the claim of dementia?
Well, technically no, but could you repeat that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as your knowledge extends, Nano had only fallen one time. And you based your conclusion on the assumption that he had only fallen one time. So I'm asking you if one fall supports your claim of dementia.
Technically, yes. I did make that conclusion.
Okay, one fall supports dementia. Got it. Good to know. Alrighty. And I'd like to get to the equipment on the tutu. So, was the equipment working properly on the submersible? The oxygen equipment, sorry.
From what I'm aware, I don't think the oxygen equipment was working quite right.
Actually, to clarify, it was until the end of the dive.
My apologies, sorry.
That's quite alright. So is there any way for passengers to determine when exactly the oxygen would be running out?
Objection, Your Honor, not an expert. My witness is not sure of anything that has to do with the tutu or how its oxygen works.
Actually, Your Honor, in witness testimony, the witness has made multiple claims based on oxygen levels and the oxygen in the tutu. If you wanted to look, there are percentages of the oxygen levels on the tutu, and he also explains that oxygen was not the main air we breathe.
I'm
The response, Your Honor?
going to sustain the objection for this particular question. If you can lay a foundation, then go ahead and proceed.
Okay, well, in that case, I will move on. Is it plausible, is it plausible that the will could have been written before oxygen levels started compromising their mental ability?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Response?
Dr. Nochar is an expert on psychoanalysis, and he has multiple times made claims that oxygen compromises mental abilities, and I'm simply asking whether the will could have been written before his claims of their mental decline started happening.
Response, Your Honor?
No, overruled.
Would you like me to repeat the question, Dr. Nochar?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, so is it possible that the will could have been written before oxygen started running out?
Yes, I guess.
Okay, and just to clarify, you weren't on the sub personally, right?
No, I was not.
Okay, and you also had no handwriting samples of Jesse Watkins prior to the note on the exhibit, correct?
Yes, that is true.
So the only thing you were looking at in your analysis was the handwriting sample aboard the tutu.
Yes.
So you made your claims on Jesse Watkins's mental capabilities based on only this one handwriting sample, correct?
Yes, basically.
Just Your Honor, facts not evidence. The witness actually had multiple. She looked at the report. She looked at the autopsy report. That's how she, and that lacks foundation. She actually looked at multiple reports upon coming to the conclusion that he lacked mental capacity.
Response?
Your Honor, the witness has just said that that was the only piece of evidence that was considered. I made sure to clarify multiple times, and that is coming straight from the witness's mouth.
Yes. Overruled.
Okay. All right, and to finish up, I'd like to ask you some personal questions, Dr. Northshire, if you don't mind. So you said you founded your own company called Northshire Expertise, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And would you say that your company is founded based on moral principles of integrity and honesty?
Yes, I would say so.
So, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good to know. And you said that you've exaggerated under oath before, correct?
Yes, I did.
So you essentially just contradicted yourself, correct?
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes. Good to know. All right. And so essentially, we can't really trust anything you say on this testimony, can we?
Judge, Your Honor, badgering.
Sustained.
Dr. Northshire, do you have any problem extending the truth?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you have any problem extending the truth?
No, I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, very good to know. And you said that you would be compelled to do everything you could to help one of your clients. So would you say that you would go to extreme measures to help Mr. Alex Eubanks?
Can you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
Oh, quite all right. You said that you would be compelled in your witnessing to do everything you could to help one of your clients. So would you say that you would go to extreme measures to help Mr. Alex turn Eubanks?
Well, yes, technically.
So let it be clear that you said you would go to extreme measures, correct?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect?
Yes, please, Your Honor. So Nino retreated to his penthouse, and you diagnosed that as hallmark dementia, correct?
Yes, I did.
And Nano forgot the tower in which he resides, and you diagnosed that as a psychotic break or also hallmark dementia, correct?
Yes, I did.
So you looked at multiple accounts and ideas before diagnosing him for dementia, correct?
I did.
And you looked at autopsy reports, Terry Clott's own medical examination, as well as the handwriting before you decided that Nano lacked mental capacity, correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Recross?
Dr. Northshire, were you personally there for the 2-week permit period?
No, I was not.
No, you were not. And everything you have been based on is, apart from the autopsy, is based on hearsay, correct?
Correct.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down. Defense, please call your next witness.
We'd like to call Wilson Ironman. All right, Miss Hanlett, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself for the court today?
Hi there. My name is Wilton I. Hamlet. I'm a 34-year-old resident of Texoma City.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a lawyer, attorney, and officer of the court. But y'all may recognize me from the television as the Texoma Handle, where I handle it.
And what is your educational background?
I graduated from Stanford Law School back in 2017.
So, what's your relationship with Nano Design?
Nano Design hired me as his estate lawyer.
So, as his attorney, how often did you meet with him?
Back in 2020, we decided to meet once a week at the Nano Tower.
And what did you discuss at these meetings?
At these meetings, we would discuss his charity trust list.
And can you tell us what a charity trust is?
So, of course, charity trust is a way to establish your assets in order to benefit yourself, your beneficiaries, and or your charities.
All right, thank you. Permission to approach the witness with what has been marked as Exhibit 5. Thank you. All right. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Can you tell us what this document is?
This is the last charity trust that I overlooked for Nano.
Mm-hmm. And to your knowledge, has anything on that document been altered in any way?
No, ma'am, it hasn't.
So is this document fair and true to your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
All right. Your Honor, I move to tender this into evidence and publish it to the jury.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
So admitted.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about what Exhibit 5 is?
So, like I said earlier, Exhibit 5 is our charity trust list. This was the last charity trust list that I was able to overlook before Nano went on the submersible.
Mm-hmm. And why is Exhibit 5 important?
So, Exhibit 5 was important to Nano because at the time of his death, he owned 57 businesses. This was his way to secure his businesses and make sure, God forbid, anything were to happen to him, they would be safe.
All right. And so you would say that he understood this very well?
Oh, very well. I would say better than most, if not all of my clients. Every time we would go over this, he would look through every detail very thoroughly.
Mm-hmm. And through all of your time with him, was Mr. Alex Turn Eubanks ever brought up in this will?
Alex Turn Eubanks was brought up during the charity trust multiple times throughout the years.
And did you ever hear Nano Design refer to Alex as anything other than Alex?
I heard Alex and Ace being used in the same sentence a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm. And was the Aquatic Center for Exploration ever listed in this charity trust?
Oh, not once.
All right. Permission to approach with what has been already tendered as Exhibit 1G. Right. And I believe the jury already has a copy of this too.
Thank you.
All right. Now, have you seen that document before?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
All right. So can you identify what it is for us?
So this is the last will that Nano wrote on the submersible.
Mm-hmm. And based on your time with Nano and your knowledge of him personally, who would you assume that the ace in this document refers to?
Oh, definitely Alex Turn Eubanks.
Mm-hmm. And what led you to this conclusion?
Well, like I said earlier, throughout the years, I heard Ace and Alex being used in the same sentence a bunch of times. He would say, "You're my ace valet, Alex."
Mm-hmm. So, what is your professional opinion of Nano leaving all of his worth to one person after spending so much time on this charity trust in the past?
Well, earlier he actually would bring up a bunch of times if it would be all right to leave all of his money to one person or source. And in my professional opinion, and what I told him is that that wouldn't be the wisest idea. But I did ask out of curiosity who he would leave it to, and he said Alex.
But did you convince him in this conversation that it wouldn't be the best idea to leave all of his work to one person?
Yes, ma'am. He always trusted the handle.
All right. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So, I just want to ask, you believe, Nano completely understood the will-making process, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said he understood the will-making process better than all your other clients, correct?
Most, if not all of mine. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is it fair, would you think it's fair to say that he would be able to understand and write a will?
Yes, ma'am, I would say so.
Okay, thank you. So you've known Nano for 2 years, correct?
No, that's not true.
Or sorry, 6 years. My bad.
Well, it was 5 years from the time, but it was 6 years ago.
Okay. And you consider yourself friends?
Yes, ma'am, I would say we were pretty close, meeting once a week.
And but you also resented Nano, correct?
I wouldn't say so, no. Not all the time.
I'm sorry.
What are you specifically talking about?
So did you? Let me re-ask the question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you or did you not resent Nano?
No, ma'am.
You didn't resent Nano.
Throughout our whole friendship, no.
Okay.
There were times, but I would need you to be specific.
Right. So, by specific, so there were times where you resented Nano.
There was once, yes, ma'am.
And you just stated, so you just contradicted yourself. You just said you never resented him.
That is not what I said, ma'am. I said that I did throughout, but not like the whole time. There was certain circumstances, but I don't know what you're trying to get at.
Okay, I'll continue then. Just to clarify, at a point in time, you resented Nano.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were also envious of Nano, correct?
I was. I wasn't envious of Nano. I was envious of the money.
The money. Okay. So moving on from that, you said you told the whole of what happened between you and Nano in your meetings in your witness statement, correct?
Yes, we would discuss the charity trust list, like I said earlier.
And that breaks confidentiality, correct?
I'm sorry. What do you mean by that?
Case, like lawyer and client.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
That does. Okay. Right. And
I said what I could on behalf of that.
Okay,
I couldn't say further.
in the prior will that you were handed, the one before Nano got on the submarine.
Charity trust?
Yes, the charity trust. Alex was a beneficiary, correct?
Multiple times throughout the years.
Yes, and he would stand to get 45 million from this.
It depended on the time. At the
The
last one was 5%. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And so Nano also changed his will often, correct?
I would say quite often. It was a little inconsistent, depending on the time.
Okay, but he did change it multiple times, and you met.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you also met every week to check if you wanted to change it, correct?
I would always meet up with him once a week
Okay, to change the will, correct?
to see if he wanted to make any changes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And so you said that you heard Alex. So Alex and Ace have been using the same sentence, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you never heard Nano refer to Alex as Ace, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. So in addition, you believe Nano was perfectly sane, correct?
Oh, when? Would?
Just
Throughout,
throughout.
throughout. Yes, ma'am.
You did? Okay, and then you also believe Nano was saying while in the submarine, correct?
I believe so.
Objection, not an expert.
Response?
She said it in her witness statement that she believed that Nano was saying while in the submarine, despite what she has heard from other people.
I'm gonna sustain the objection.
Okay, I'll move on then.
Yes, Your Honor.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay. Redirect?
No, Your Honor.
In that case, you may step down.
Thank you.
Does the defense have any additional witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor.
Does the defense rest?
Yes, we do.
In that case, the court will take a 1-minute recess for you all to prepare your closing arguments.
Do I turn this off? Do I turn this off?
They're all gonna have a competition about your witness jobs. We're gonna have that competition. But now, what are the main points you want me to talk about that you think I have some? What do you guys want? Bring up the email. I'm trying to make that up. One second. What do you want me to bring up? What are the main facts you guys think I should bring up? The email. Desperate capacity of you being an actual doctor. Like, they tricked you.
I need water. Can I have water? I think it might be on my side of my backpack. Could you pass it to me? For hands. Oh, I was trying to get water. I'm sorry. Thank you.
That really scared me.
I need to talk. I can't talk to the guy.
Okay. As long as y'all are like fine with whatever I did, then it's okay.
You just said yes to everything. They're lying to you. You're better than them. You know that if better than them, you're better. Unless it's about you. I'm trying.
All right, court will return to being in session. Plaintiff, do you wish to reserve any rebuttal time? Up to 1 minute.
Yes, Your Honor, I wish to reserve 1 minute for rebuttal time following.
1 minute will be reserved, and you may proceed with your closing argument.
May it please the court, Your Honor, members of the jury. Making dreams come true takes composure, cognizance, and companionship through hard times. Nano was designed with the embodiment of these things. He was not one to shy away from challenges, and he spent the last of his life proving this, pushing hard to achieve his dream of underwater exploration and finding the shipwreck at least. Today in this courtroom, we have introduced you to 3 witnesses that saw Nano throughout his life and at the end of it. They have explained how Nano was ready for the exploration, in both body and mind. The prosecution today has the burden of proof. To prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Nano Design had testimony capacity and that the identity of ACE is the Aquatic Center of Exploration. And we have met that burden. From crystal clear, we have heard about the extensive preparation that Nano took in order to get ready for this dive. From contacting Crystal Clear in the first place to setting up the dive and paying $100 million, Nano knew what he was doing when he got ready for this dive. Furthermore, Crystal Clear also explained that ACE is a common name used to describe the Aquatic Center for Exploration. Throughout this trial, we have brought up legal documentation where the Aquatic Center for Exploration is referred to as ACE. Then, from Terry Close. Terry Close, an actual doctor, describes how Nano never failed a dementia test. The defense will try to bring up the fact that Nano fell on the stress ECG, but we brought up the fact that getting tangled in the wires is a common way to fall on the stress ECG test. This is not an uncommon fall for somebody. Nano did not have a mental problem on this test, and he passed all his dementia tests, which is what they're saying is inhibiting his testimony capacity. Dr. Maxwell tries to make the claim that all of Terry Float's testimony is not accurate. First off, during cross-examination, Dr. Max Northshire says that everything that he based his testimony off of is hearsay. So already he's insanely skeptical of anything he said or they said. Furthermore, the will could have been written prior to anything that could have prevented his testimony, testimony capacity, as said by Max Northshire. And Max Northshire also said that a single ball in the stress ECG test does not prove anything for dementia. First, prefer the fact that we have an actual credentialed person giving medical information on Nano's mental state. Then prefer the fact that their own medical professional, one contradicts himself, and two says everything they know about Nano Design is from hearsay. 3, we have Jackie Long, who has provided Navy SEAL level training to Nano Design to prepare for underwater exploration. Nano went through training that Crystal Clear said wasn't even necessary, but Nano went through it anyways to increase his ability to maintain oxygen supply. Jackie Lung is been through the Navy and has been identified as an expert and speaks to how Nano is very capable underwater. And their own witnesses also speak to how strong Nano is. And then we got to the identity of ACE. From Alex Stern Eubanks, we learned that Nano has never even referred to Alex as Ace. However, Alex Stern Eubanks did read legal documentation that refers to the Aquatic Center as Ace. From Wilton v. Hamlet, one, we learned that Nano is the same person from their own cross-examination. Two, we learned that Nano has never actually referred to Alex as Ace again. So when you go to the jury room today, you make a choice, one, to prove that the holographic rule is valid, which you should do based on the fact that we have proof that Nano trained and that Nano was capable of maintaining testimony capacity underwater, and you make a decision on the identity of Ace. The only real Ace, the Aquatic Center of Exploration, the only one that Nano has ever referred to as Ace. That's it.
Defense, please proceed with your closing remarks.
Yes. Whew. Quick question. If I have an objection to something they said in their closing, do I bring it up afterwards or right now?
It has passed.
Oh, was I supposed to object during their closing?
Yes.
I apologize. Judge, jury, and members of the opposing counsel, thank you for coming here today. This has been an amazing trial, and there's a few things I want to point out. Everybody has friends, people that you can rely on that are by your side, whether they're friends that you met at a school 1 week ago, or friends that you've had since college or even university. They are by your side. You trust them, and which is exactly what happened here in this case today. Alex Chern Eubanks was Nano Design's best friend and personal assistant. He has known him for over 13 years. Nano Design had left in his beneficiary will to give 5% of his assets to his best friend. However, the Aquatic Center has now come to say and dispute his will, saying that the Ace in this submarine referred to apparently them. But that makes absolutely no sense. They have been unable to prove that ACE stands for the Aquatic Center. There is no reason why Nano would give it to the company that killed him. Nano had a best friend, and he trusted his best friend, from scheduling his appointments to getting to places on time. However, Nano trusted the right person, but trusted the wrong company. The Aquatic Center killed Nano Design, which is an indisputable fact. Now, it doesn't matter if Nano Design, sorry. I just want to make a quick question. Do you forget where your own home is regularly? Do you forget the name of your instructor? Do you forget the name of your friends? Do you start acting out and lashing regularly? No. These are all signs of someone who is not in their right mind. Alex Stern Eubanks has been with Nano for 13 years and has observed him the entire way through, standing by his side as his personal assistant. However, he noticed that Nano had not been acting right ever since he heard about the Ellie. Now, Nano had 57 business trusts, which would never change. However, apparently with this new will he wrote in the submarine, that all changes. Why would Nano change something he had never changed before on a whim? Now, Dr. Northshire has come up here and testified here today. The opposing counsel will have you believe that everything she said is hearsay, but that's not the case. According to stipulation 80304, medical diagnoses and documents are admissible, and they go past the hearsay rule, which means everything that Dr. Northshire concluded from and took a look at, all the documents that you've seen here today, were not hearsay. And if they keep saying it's hearsay, why didn't they object to that earlier? That's because they knew we have a stipulation which would enter our exhibit. Now, to be very clear, they have not proven anything. Nano did not have testimony capacity. We've had doctors, his best friend, say it clearly to you. He did not have testimony capacity, and on top of that, if you believe he did, the ace in this presumed will, the only person that could be is Alex Chern Eubanks, ACE, his best friend, the person he trusted with everything, not the company he had known for a month and a half maybe. someone he had known for over a decade of his life. I'm going to leave you with this question real quick. What and who would you leave all of your assets to? Would you leave it to someone that you trust, somebody that has been by your side for as long as you can remember? Or would you leave it to some company which ended up having you killed? Not just you, their own employee killed. Jesse Watkins, which is an employee under their company, died on this dive. They give $25 million to their family for them to keep quiet because they didn't want the public to know. However, at the end of the day, I leave you with this. Alex Chern Eubanks was his best friend. He was there through thick and thin. But all of the witnesses on the plaintiff's side failed Nano in some way, whether it was taking extra money from him and making sure and having the tutu not be prepared for its dive, or even giving him a wrong physical diagnosis. Alex Chern Eubanks is the only ace that could be talked about. And finally, Nano did not have testimony capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Plaintiff, 1 minute for rebuttal.
Your Honor, the check just like exactly how much time I have. Okay.
Okay.
The event that just came up, it made the claim that Alex Chern Eubanks left all his money to his best friend. But let's start by remembering what happened with that best friend right before they went on this expedition. Oh yeah, Alex Chern Eubanks was called a traitor by Daniel this time. And furthermore, there is no proof that Ace is Alex Chern Eubanks. Defense likes to make the claim that Ace is not a aquatic center. However, that's simply not true. Their own witnesses have looked at legal documentation that refers to the aquatic center preparation as Ace. They say the aquatic center killed Nano, but they provide no proof for this. And either way, the aquatic center logo was plastered all over the submarine. All around Nano, in his final moments, he looked at the aquatic center logo, and he chose to write Ace. The logo that they have read as Ace, the logo that the word Ace has never been called for Alex Chern Eubanks. So the aquatic center could only be Alex Chern Eubanks. Thus, to maintain Nano's legacy, you should go prosecution.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this concludes our case. It will be submitted. I have to say, you all were absolutely exceptional. This was truly fantastic to watch and to judge. I wish my associates were this good and prepared. It's obvious you all done an amazing job and a lot of work, and I applaud all of you. They're really fantastic. So with that, let's please collect everything in the courtroom. Let's leave it cleaner than we found it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, stop the video. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I was literally thinking about that. Y'all did an amazing job.
Good round overall, for sure.
You too.
Good job.
Yeah.
That was really
I
cool.
know.
I was thinking that. I don't know.
Good job.
You too.
Great accent. Thank you. Good job. Yeah, you too. Oh, yes. Amar, can you stop the recording? Stop the recording.